When you go to his films, I think you can pretty much bet on having a very visceral, fear of the opposite sex at the end of the film.
Yeah, that's what he does. Yeah.
He does it very well.
Thanks for doing that, for making me afraid of women now.
She was Hollywood's prodigy at 13, Francis Ford Coppola's muse at 18, and the woman who could break your heart without saying a single word. Yet behind the elegance, Diane Lane's story is one of solitude, betrayal, and resilience. At 60, the tragedy of her life isn't just in what she lost, but in what she survived. Diane Lane has always been a paradox. Critics called her the new Grace Kelly, yet she never won an Oscar. She played betrayed wives on screen, yet admitted to infidelity in real life. She grew up surrounded by the chaos of New York, yet became the face of Hollywood elegance. She wasn't a child star who faded into obscurity. She wasn't an actress who clung desperately to youth. Instead, she existed somewhere in between, visible yet hidden, adored yet misunderstood. And to truly understand Diane Lane, you have to begin where it all started, in a world that was anything but stable. Diane Lane was born in New York City, January 22, 1965. Her mother, Colleen Farrington, was a nightclub singer and a Playboy model. Her father, Burton Eugene Lane, was an acting coach, brilliant but broke. Her parents separated when Diane was just 13 days old. From then on, her life was anything but normal. Her father raised her in hotel rooms, cheap apartments, and the backseat of his taxicab. There was no white picket fence, no stable home. Instead, Diane's childhood was defined by constant movement, survival, not security. Her father was passionate, almost philosophical. He could spend hours discussing Dostoevsky, yet forget to put dinner on the table. To Diane, he was both inspiring and exhausting. He gave her art, but not structure. He gave her freedom, but not safety. By 15, Diane had had enough. She ran away from home with Christopher Atkins, her co-star from Child Bride of Short Creek. It was reckless, but it was the decision of a girl who had grown up too fast. And yet this chaos, this instability, it gave Diane something rare. She learned to watch, to listen, to absorb life around her. And those very instincts would soon make her unforgettable on screen. But before Hollywood embraced her, something happened that would cut deep, a betrayal from the very person who had once left her behind. At just 13, Diane landed her first major role in a little romance, opposite none other than Sir Laurence Olivier. Most child actors crumble in the shadow of legends, not Diane. On set, Olivier nicknamed her the new Grace Kelly. He saw in her not just talent, but presence. She didn't act like a child star. She acted like an actress. Almost overnight, Diane Lane became America's fascination. Time magazine put her on its cover, calling her one of Hollywood's whiz kids. Coppola cast her in The Outsiders, Rumble Fish, and The Cotton Club. She was beautiful, talented, and, at least on the outside, unstoppable. But that's the cruel truth about Hollywood. For every prodigy that rises, there's always the looming question, will they last? And soon, Diane Lane's meteoric rise would be met with an equally dramatic fall. By the mid-1980s, Diane was everywhere. Red carpets, magazine covers, lead roles. She was barely 18 and already a millionaire, but Hollywood can be merciless. Diane was too young to play a woman, too old to play a child. The roles dried up. Critics whispered she had burned out too soon. Casting directors moved on to the next ingenue. For Diane, it wasn't just a career stall, it was an identity crisis. She had given her entire youth to Hollywood, only to find herself discarded before she'd even turned 21. She pulled back, she retreated from the spotlight, and many assumed she would never return. But sometimes the most powerful comebacks are born from silence. In 2002, Diane Lane re-emerged with Unfaithful. And it was nothing like the roles she had played before. She portrayed Connie Sumner, a suburban wife who betrays her husband. It was messy, human, and real. One scene changed everything. The train ride home after her first affair, no dialogue, no soundtrack, just trembling hands, shallow breaths, and eyes heavy with guilt and desire. That single, wordless performance earned Diane her first Academy Award nomination. Suddenly, Hollywood remembered her, not as a prodigy, not as a beauty, but as a woman. The very next year, she starred in Under the Tuscan Sun, a completely different role, a woman rebuilding her life after heartbreak, sunlight, laughter, loneliness, and rebirth. It was the story of resilience, and audiences, especially women over 35, saw themselves in Diane, 2 films, back to back. And just like that, Diane Lane had rewritten her career. But while her professional life flourished, her personal life told a very different story. Diane's love life has been as complex as her roles. In 1988, she married French actor Christopher Lambert. They had a daughter, Eleanor, who became the center of Diane's world. But the marriage ended in 1994. Distance, careers, and lifestyle differences pulled them apart. Still, their separation was quiet, respectful, a rare Hollywood ending. A decade later, she married Josh Brolin. Their relationship began like a fairy tale, but quickly soured. In 2004, Brolin was arrested after a domestic incident. Though Diane never pressed charges, the marriage was marked by turbulence, bar fights, and eventual divorce in 2013. 2 marriages, 2 heartbreaks. And through it all, Diane never played the victim. She chose silence. She chose dignity. But silence has a cost, because when Diane finally broke it, she said something that shocked the world. In 2005, Diane Lane admitted something no one expected. She revealed she had affairs with both Timothy Hutton and Christopher Atkins. For decades, audiences had seen her as the betrayed wife on screen, the woman who embodied heartbreak. Now she was confessing to being the one who crossed the line in real life. Some fans felt betrayed, others admired her honesty, but one thing was clear: Diane Lane was no longer Hollywood's symbol of purity. She was real, flawed, human, complicated, and in that confession, she became something greater than an image. She became a woman unafraid of truth. But while the tabloids spun their headlines, Diane quietly continued what she did best, creating characters that lived and breathed. Unlike many actresses, Diane Lane never tried to cling to youth. She didn't chase cosmetic perfection. She didn't fight the passage of time. Instead, she leaned into it. In Secretariat, she played a determined horse owner. In Trumbo, she played a quiet, enduring wife. In Let Him Go, she played a grandmother fighting for family. Each role proved that age wasn't her enemy, it was her strength. And in a Hollywood obsessed with youth, Diane Lane became something rare, an actress who grew more powerful with each passing year. But even as her career matured, her private life remained deliberately quiet. What is Diane Lane's legacy? Not Oscars, not scandals, not magazine covers. Her legacy is the trust of her audience. The belief that when she looks into a camera, she means it. That when she cries, it isn't performance. That when she stands silent, she's saying everything. She showed us that acting isn't about noise, it's about presence. And presence is something you can't fake. But perhaps her greatest legacy isn't even on screen. It's in how she chose to live, gracefully, privately, and on her own terms. Now at 60, Diane Lane lives simply. She practices yoga, tends her garden, and collects antique furniture. She spends her mornings walking, her weekends horseback riding. Most importantly, she cherishes time with her daughter, Eleanor, who is now a model and writer in New York. She isn't chasing roles, she isn't chasing headlines, she's choosing peace over spotlight. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that she lost fame, or endured heartbreak, or shocked the world with her confessions. The tragedy is that so few ever looked past the surface, to see the woman who carried herself through storms with quiet grace. If this story got your heart racing, imagine what's coming next. Hit subscribe and stay in the loop, only on Hollywood Pulse News, where the drama never sleeps.